In this video, I'm going to show you how to create this pretty cool YouTube subscribe animation inside Adobe After Effects. Let's dive in.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Before we dive in, I just want to let you know if you're a patron on my Patreon page, you can download the Mogurt for Premiere Pro down in the video description. Feel free to go grab that. But otherwise, let's see how to create this from scratch inside Adobe After Effects. So to get started, I'm going to create a new composition. So I'm going to go up to Composition, New Composition. I'm just going to name this YouTube Subscribe Animation. Then from the preset, you can choose whichever resolution works best for you. I'm going to choose 4K. And then for the duration, I'm going to leave it at 10 seconds long, the frame rate at 29 seconds. Then I'm going to click OK. A few things I wanted to touch on before we dive in is that be sure you have a profile photo to use. So I have a photo of myself that I'll use for this example, as well as a bell icon. So I got this bell icon from freepik.com. I'll leave that in the video description if you want to check out free graphics that you can use for your projects, and also these mouse cursors. And what I did is I just opened this up in Photoshop and just selected the hand and exported that out as its own icon. So just be sure that you have these ready. When we're ready, we'll add these into our project and they'll be ready to use, and we can animate these in our After Effects project. So back inside After Effects, the first thing we're gonna do is turn on our title action safe. And we'll first draw out the box, and the box has to be inside this inside rectangle line of the title safe region. So what I'm gonna do now is grab our rectangle tool, and then I'm gonna click on fill, just make sure that solid color is selected, click OK, and change the color to white. Then I'm gonna click OK, and then I'm just gonna click and draw out a box. Be right around there or so is good. I'm gonna release. Once you release, you can navigate to the Align panel. If you don't see this, you can go up to Window Align, and then you can just select the Align horizontally. That way the box is directly in the center of the screen. Once we have our box, the next step is to create our profile photo. Before we do that, I'm just gonna rename this layer by clicking Return on my keyboard and naming this box Background. And then what we can do to create the profile photo is long hold on the rectangle tool and select the ellipse tool. Then I'm going to change the fill color to a more visible color such as red. I'm going to select the red color and then click and drag while holding down Shift inside the composition panel to draw out a perfect circle. Once you release and let go, you'll notice that we have our circle here. We can grab our zoom tool from our tools panel and marquee select to zoom in here on our composition panel. Then I'm going to grab my selection tool and just realign this so it looks nice inside our rectangle here. If it's helpful, you can always maybe select the box, hit Command R to bring up your rulers, then click and drag down a guide so that it's halfway, and you can now align the circle a little bit easier here, and that way you know it's directly in the center of the box. Once you have that set, I'm going to add in our profile photo. So I'm going to go to our Finder once again, and just click and drag in your profile photo into the project panel. Then I'm going to click and drag this into our timeline. I'm going to click S on our keyboard to bring up the scale property. I'm going to scale this down quite a bit here. Now I'm going to zoom out, so I'm going to fit my scale here and then click and drag the profile photo back over here. Once again, I'm going to zoom in using our zoom tool here. Then we can grab our selection tool and then just size this up here. Now what we have to do is put this profile photo inside that shape, or that circle. And to do that, I'm going to use the track matte tools. If you don't see this column here that says track matte, you can select toggle switches and modes, and this will switch that over for you. But with that selected, with the photo selected, that layer selected, click and drag this pick whip into the shape layer. That will essentially put the photo layer inside that shape layer. And once again, we can rename this. So I'm going to rename our shape layer photo matte. That way we know that's the photo matte for our photo. You can always click on your photo and realign this if it's a little bit off here, so I'm going to center that up. All right, the last thing with our photo is we're going to add a simple stroke to it. So I'm going to click on this photo matte layer, hit Command D to duplicate it, and then click and drag this above everything. Then I'm going to rename this photo stroke, and then I'm going to disable the fill. So click on the fill button, click on the hash, and click OK. And then enable stroke by clicking on stroke, click on solid color, and click OK. I'm going to make the color red, so that's a good red color at 4 pixels, so that's pretty good. And lastly, what we have to do is unhide the layer. So we're going to click on this eye tool. Then we're going to twirl down and scale this up. So if we go under contents, under ellipse 1, under ellipse path 1, we can see the size option. We'll just click and drag this up, so we'll just increase the size a little bit. Now we have have a nice little stroke around our profile photo. All right, once that's set, we're gonna zoom back out here. One last thing when it comes to the profile photo, I'm just gonna pre-compose all of this, and this will be important later on once we start animating. So I'm just gonna select these 3 layers here, right click and go to pre-compose. And I'm just gonna name this photo pre-comp, then click OK. All right, the next step is to add in our text for our YouTube channel. So just grab your type tool from the menu, click out into your composition and type out your channel name. In this case, I'm just gonna do my channel, John the Video Guy. Once you have it, you can select your selection tool and then just click and drag it right next to your profile photo. Right about there is good. I'm gonna size this down a little bit, maybe to 85. And then I'm gonna left justify it by using the paragraph panel. If you don't see this panel, you can always go up to Window Properties, and this displays the most popular properties for the layer that's selected inside your After Effects project. I'm then just gonna slide this over so it's right next to my profile photo. Now, if you want, you can also add in the amount of subscribers. That's also another popular option as well. You can put whatever text you want here. So our next step is to add the subscribe button. So to do that, I'm gonna long hold once again on our rectangle tool or ellipse tool and select the rectangle tool. Then I'm gonna enable fill, so I'm gonna click back on fill, and then I'm gonna click on solid color and click OK. Then I'm gonna disable stroke, so click on stroke, click on the hash and click OK. And next what we can do is just simply click and draw out our subscribe box. And once again, I'm gonna zoom in here so we can see a little bit better. So I'm gonna click and draw out a marquee selection here to just zoom in, then grab your selection tool and just kind of realign the box here. And then now that we have this box, I'm gonna rename this. So I'm gonna rename this subscribe box. Next, I'm gonna grab our type tool and then click out once again and type out subscribe. Then I'm gonna select our text here and change the fill color to white, click OK, grab our selection tool. I'm gonna just align this to the center here. I'm also gonna center justify this and then just center this up here. To center the subscribe text to the box, you can select both layers and use the align panel to align horizontally to each other here as a group. So if we click on this button, this will align the text to the center of the box. So now these are perfectly aligned here and we should be good to go. So if we zoom back out, we can see what we have so far. So it's looking pretty good. The last step we need to do is just add in our bell notification graphic. And like I said, if you grab it from Freepik or find one that you like online, feel free to use it. I'm gonna click and drag this into our project here. If you're using a Photoshop file, you can just import kind footage, make sure merge layers are there and click OK. Then I'm gonna click and drag this into our project here. And I'm gonna scale this down quite a bit to around 2%. And then I'm just gonna click and drag this to the bottom right corner here. Once it's there, I'm gonna once again zoom in. So I'm gonna grab my zoom tool and make a box around the bell. That way we can see it a little bit better here. Now we have to change the color of it. And what's really nice is you can change the color of any layer by adding a layer style. So I'm gonna right click on the layer inside the timeline panel and go to Layer Styles Color Overlay. And then I'm gonna twirl down under Color Overlay and then just change it to a light gray color as if it hasn't been selected yet. And once the cursor selects it, it'll change into a darker color. One last thing when it comes to the bell is we're gonna animate the different elements separately. So I'm gonna duplicate this layer 2 more times. So we have 3 duplicates of the same layer and we're gonna draw a mask around each one of the parts. So with the layer selected, hit Command D, hit Command D once more. And with the top layer selected, what I'm gonna do is grab our pen tool and I'm just gonna click and draw out a mask right around the center of the bell. So we're gonna separate the center of the bell from the bell bottom and then the waves or the sound coming out. Because essentially we don't want to see the waves until the bell has been animated. So we need to separate the waves regardless. And then the bell bottom we want to animate separately so it kind of ping pongs back and forth. So with the first mask complete, I'm going to rename this bell body. And then we can select our next layer here and this will be the bell bottom. So I'm just going to draw out another mask just around the bell bottom, close it off and then rename it bell bottom. And then lastly here, I'm gonna click on the last layer and then just draw out another mask just around the waves. Now I do want just one wave, so I'm just gonna draw a mask around the first wave or the sound kind of icon. And then once the first one's done, I'm just gonna roughly click and draw out a mask around the other wave point. And with it closed off, what you can do is click on the layer in the timeline panel, click M to preview your masks, click on mask 2, and then click and drag to realign this here. Once you get in the general location, you can click off, click back on the layer, not on the mask, but on the layer itself. And then click and drag out your points just around the wave. Once you have it done, you should have something that looks like this. The next thing we're gonna do is click on the layer and rename it. So I'm gonna rename this Bell Waves. And then I'm gonna click S on our keyboard and then just change the value to 0. That way it disappears and nothing's there when it's static like this. All right, so with that done, we're just gonna zoom back out. So I'm gonna fit my scroll to view. You should have something that looks like this. Before we start animating it, just make sure everything's aligned properly. Make sure the spacing in between the different elements is accurate, that everything looks good. For example, here I might just slide my name over and I might move the subscribe text and box over just a little bit. I'm just making sure the spaces look pretty accurate here, and maybe even the bell can slide over to the left. So just make some fine-tune adjustments, and the next part will be to animate. All right, so next step is to animate it. So you'll notice based on the animation that plays now, it basically reveals itself, and then a cursor comes in and clicks on the subscribe button and then the notification bell, and then it animates off. So the first step to do this is to animate it on. So to do that, what I'm gonna do first is select all of our layers here. So I'm gonna select everything other than the box background. And with the track matte column visible, once again, if you don't see this, you can select the toggle switches and modes here. Click and drag the pick whip to the box background. This essentially puts all these layers inside this box background, so they won't be visible outside of the box background. And then once that's done, just unhide the box background, click S on your keyboard to bring up scale, and then unlink the X and Y scale values by clicking this little link button. Then you can click on the stopwatch to toggle a keyframe. And what we can do first is change the Y value to 0, and then we can scrub out forward in our timeline maybe to 2 seconds, and then change it up to 100%. Now when we click and play this back, you can see it reveals itself. We can add some easy ease to this last keyframe by right-clicking and going to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease In. We can also go to the graph editor and fine-tune this. If you want to learn more about the graph editor, I did make a tutorial going over it. I will link that in the card in the top right corner if you want to learn more about the controls. But essentially this just adds a little bit of ease to the animation here, so it's not as linear. All right, we can exit the graph editor, and the next step is to start animating our mouse or cursor. So it appears, click subscribe, and it clicks on the bell icon. So I'm gonna import our cursor into our project here. So I'm gonna go and navigate to our mouse cursor, and then just click and drag this in. Once again, click OK and click and drag this into our project or in our timeline panel. Now I'm gonna click S on our keyboard and scale this down quite a bit, maybe to around 12%. And then I'm just gonna click and drag this to the bottom, get the size down correctly. You want it to be big enough so you can see it, but not too large so it covers too much of the different elements. Once you got the size done, you can click on it, click P to bring up position. You'll notice that I have X and Y positions separated. If you need to separate it, you can always right click on the value and go to separate dimensions. You can automatically have them separated by going up to After Effects Settings General and then go to Default Position Properties to separate dimensions. This is just helpful, that way we can animate the X and Y separately. And especially for the cursor here, you'll want it to be separate so that we can animate the X and Y differently. All right, so with it separated, we can go out to around 1 second or so, and we can slide this off. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so we can see kind of where we're going. I'm gonna change the X and Y so it starts at the bottom here, and then we can toggle on the animation for both X position and the Y position, and then go out to around 3 seconds or so, and then it can land right on the subscribe button. So I'm gonna change the values. So we'll just kind of go up until we're right over the subscribe button. We can zoom in, so I'm gonna grab our zoom tool and then just zoom in right here. Just make sure that it's where you'd like it, right around there is good. And then you'll notice that it animates in a straight line like that, and most humans don't really move their mouse cursor like that, so we're gonna add some realistic animation to this. And to do that, we're gonna add easy ease to these keyframes first, and then just change kind of how the graph looks. So I'm gonna right click on these 2 keyframes and go to Easy Ease In. And then I'm gonna select these keyframes and do Easy Ease Out. And then if we go into our graph editor, I'm gonna select one. So let's start with the Y. We can click on one of these handlebars, hold down Shift, and click and drag to the right. Then we'll click on the other one and we'll click on the opposite keyframe. So in this case, the right hand handlebar, click and drag. So you can see it kind of makes more of a curved animation, and it just looks a little bit more natural here. Now, if you want to go the opposite way, you can click and drag this around. This might actually look a little bit better here if we do this way. but you can experiment and change the path accordingly. That way it looks just a little bit more natural. So if we click and play this back, this is kind of what we have. So it kind of hovers in and it kind of goes into a stop there. Now we do need to kind of make it slow down a little bit, so I'm just going to adjust accordingly here. There we go. That looks a little bit better. So yeah, just play with the handlebars until you get something that looks a little bit natural. All right, so once we have it looking like that, the next step is to make the click. So once it lands right around there, I'm gonna exit the graph editor by clicking on that button, click on our layer and click S to bring up scale. Then I'm just gonna toggle the scale value. I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit by clicking on the plus button on my keyboard. I'm gonna go out around 3 frames or so, and then I'm gonna change the value down to maybe 10. So it looks like you're punching in a little bit, and then go out 3 frames, and then just go back out to the original value. So it looks something like this. So it just kind of does that. And then at the end of that, maybe around here, it starts moving to the bell notification. So I'm gonna, once again, click P on our keyboard. And at this point, we can click U 2 times to bring up all of our keyframes here. And now I'm gonna make keyframes next to the X position and the Y position. And now we can go out forward in time, go over to the bell notification, so right around there is good. Doesn't really change the X position that much. Maybe you want to add a little bit there. And then once again, we can select these keyframes and add some easy ease to them. So I'm just right clicking, adding some easy ease. That way it's a little bit more realistic of a motion. Then here we can once again animate our scale, go forward 3 frames. Once again, turn it down to 10, go forward 3 frames, and go back up to 13%. So it looks something like this. And right here, we can animate it off. So we're gonna just toggle both the X and Y position, go out maybe 1 second or so, and then just click and drag this out to the bottom right. And then for this, we can just select these keyframes, right click on them, and go to Easy Ease Out. We can go to the graph editor and just kind of play with these values here so it looks a little different. You can see how the path animates based on the animation path inside our project here. So, you know, you can play with it a little bit to kind of get a different looking animation. Try to make it look as smooth and natural as possible. All right, so once we have that, the next step is to actually make the bell notification and the subscribe button animate as it clicks on it. So we'll start with the subscribe button. So I'm gonna exit the graph editor for now, and we'll go out forward to where it clicks. So right around there is when it actually punches in and it changes. So I'm gonna click on the subscribe box, and we have to change the subscribe box color to the light gray, and then the subscribe to say subscribed, and then the dark gray color. So to do that, I'm gonna add a layer style to the subscribe box by right clicking and going to layer styles, color overlay. And then we can scroll down and go to color. And we can toggle the keyframe and then go out forward 1 frame. I'm gonna zoom in all the way using my plus key. I'm gonna actually slide this keyframe over 1 frame because right here is when it changes. If we go back up here to our scale of the cursor icon. So right here we want it to change. So I'm gonna click on this eyedropper tool and select the same color as the bell. So with that change, what we can do is also apply the same layer style to the text, but then change the color instead of it being red to white and gray to dark gray. So I'm gonna click on the color overlay, hit Command C to copy it, and then click on the subscribe text layer and hit Command V. And if we click U, we can bring up our keyframes here, and we're just gonna change the first keyframe color to white, and then the second keyframe color to gray. And we're gonna copy the same gray color from our logo here. Maybe a little lighter. We can always click and adjust the color of it. So maybe something like that. And you can make it however you want here. This is just how I'm doing it. So whatever colors you want to use, feel free to use them. And then we have to animate the subscribe to subscribed. And to do that, what we're going to do is just twirl down so that you see text. And then next to source text, just click on the stopwatch, go forward out in time, and then just simply add a D at the end. So I'm gonna change the text to subscribed. So a nice simple change there. And the last step is to actually animate and kind of punch in on the button to see it actually being clicked. So to do that, I'm gonna go back a few frames, maybe around there or so. I'm gonna first click U on our keyboard to collapse all the keyframes, and then parent pick whip the subscribe to the subscribe box. That way, when we animate the box, the subscribe text layer follows it. So under parent and link, just pick whip the subscribe text layer to the subscribe box, then click on the box and click S to bring up scale, then toggle the scale property, go out a few frames, and then change your scale down to maybe 95, and then go out a few frames, and then change it back up to 100. So it just kind of adds a little bit of animation there as it punches in. As the cursor clicks on it, the button clicks with it. So yeah, that looks pretty good. The next step, once that's done, is to do the same with the bell. What I'm going to do first is click on our cursor icon, click S to bring up scale, and we'll go out forward to the point in time where it clicks in. So I'm going to zoom in using our plus key on our keyboard. I'll go right to this keyframe here. I'll go back one frame right around here. And this is the point in time where we want to change the color of the body, bottom, and waves. So first I'm going to apply a color overlay layer style to the body. So I'm going to right click on that layer, go to layer styles, color overlay, and then I'm going to twirl down, go under layer styles, under color overlay, I'm going to change the color. By default, it's red, but I'm going to change it back to that original light gray color. Then I'm going to go forward out in time and then change the color to be the same color as the text of subscribed. So that dark gray color. And then once we have that, I'm going to click on the color overlay, layer style, hit Command C to copy it. And then I'm going to click on the bell bottom layer and the bell waves layer. So I'm going to hold down Command and select both layers and hit Command V. That way they all change at the same time and it just saves some time here. All right, so now that we have that, the other thing we have to do is animate it. So similar to the subscribe button, what I'm going to do is select both the bottom and the wave layer and then parent pick whip it to the bell body. And then on the bell body, I'm going to click S to animate the scale. So I'm going to click on the stopwatch and I'm going to go back a few frames, maybe around here. Make a keyframe at the point in time where it changes. I'm going to just change it to around 1.8, just punch in a little bit here and then go back to 2% here. Your values will obviously be different if you use different icons. You get the general idea. We're just punching in a little bit on the bell. And then right after it hits right there, we have to animate on the wave. So it appears next to the bell and then rotate and make the little bell bottom swing a little bit. So to do that, what I'm going to do is first animate the waves. So I'm going to click S on our keyboard. I'm going to toggle the animation for the scale, go out a few frames, and then change this back up to 100. So now it displays right next to it. And we can add some easy ease to this just to ease in a little bit. And you'll have to play with the timing. You can marquee select these keyframes and just kind of slide them over to see what works best. So I'm going to click and play this back to see what we have. Actually click and drag this out a little bit so it's a little bit longer. Then I'm just going to click and drag this to the left here. I'm also going to add some more to this keyframe, more curvature by going over here and clicking and dragging out this handlebar. I'm also going to zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit better here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so the next step is to add the little swing to the bell. So to do that, I'm gonna grab our bell bottom here. And what we have to do first is change the location of the anchor point. You'll notice that it's way up here. If we grab our pan behind tool right here, we can click and drag this to be right at the top. So I'm gonna hold down Command and you'll notice it snaps to the different edges. I'm gonna go right around there and let go. That way, when we click on the layer, click R to bring up rotation, it's pivoting right around there. So you can see it'll kind of do something like that. I'm gonna exit the graph editor and I'm gonna reset the value to 0. Gonna make a rotation keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch. I'm gonna go out around 5 frames or so. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then change it to 15 degrees. Go out a few frames, around 5 frames, and then change it to the other side, so -15 for the degrees. And then once again, go out forward 5 frames or so, and then change it back to 0. And you can add easy ease to all of this too. I'm gonna marquee select all of these keyframes and simply go to Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease. When we click and play this back, you can kind of see what we have. Just adds a little bit more life to the animation. I'm gonna fit my scale to view, and the last step here is to just make it animate off. For that, you can click on the last layer here, click S to bring up scale once again, click on the keyframe button, and then go out maybe a second or so, out to around 8 seconds. And we can simply change the Y value back down to 0, and we can right click on this keyframe and go to Easy Ease Out to ease out of it. And we can go to the graph editor and match the same type of curvature that we did on the front end. So when we click and play this back, this is kind of what we have. animates on, changes to subscribe, and turn on notifications. So there you go, that's how I created that pretty cool template inside After Effects. Now if you do want to learn more about After Effects, feel free to watch more tutorials on my channel. Like and subscribe like the bottom bar says. There are plenty of tutorials on my channel. I'll link one that you might like right up there. But that does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.